Kin, awakened by his alarm, sat up his phone reading 6:30 a.m. He got up to get ready. He looked at himself in the mirror. He could see the dry skin on his face. He must have cried in his sleep. That is embarrassing, he thought as he scolded himself. Kin rose with purpose, his mind still reeling over the death of Hector and Grant. He adorned himself in his signature attire, a sleek black jacket edged with striking blue accents, complementing the slim black body armor that he wore on his chest, complete with black fatigues and blue and black boots. Today on schedule was a sparring match against the head combat instructor. Kin was excited to spar, although only 18 Ari and himself were stronger than most agents. Although both were considered prodigies, he considered Ari special. He couldn't put his hand on it, but he always felt like she was holding back. And even though she was quite strong. He took a deep breath, grabbed his sword, and departed from his room, the weight of the blade a familiar presence as he sheathed it to his back. As he traversed the corridors of the headquarters, his thoughts lingered on Captain Hadrian's capabilities. The captain's AXIOM allowed him to conjure reinforced steel walls and control an array of mineral constructs, not to mention being an expert in weapons. He outclassed in Kin almost every category. The excitement of the upcoming spar coursed through Kin's veins. As Kin approached the training room, the air was thick with anticipation. Kin's gaze found Captain Hadrian as he entered the room, a stalwart figure in comparison to the recruits still in training, that were there to watch as a lesson. His was presence, commanding, and assured. Kin always felt he had something to prove, even though he did not. He would take any chance to push himself. With resolve stealing his every step, Kin readied himself, placed his sword on the sword rack, and grabbed a dull katana in its place. He greeted the Captain Hadrian and Ari, who stood nearby. Captain Hadrian's voice resonated through the room as he introduced Kin and Ari to the onlooking trainees, now safely ensconced in the viewing gallery. Kin felt a twinge of irritation at the formality. Fantastic. Now everyone will believe they have a pretext to acquaint themselves with me, Kin mused internally, his thoughts laced with a hint of sarcasm. Ari, indifferent to the spotlight, offered a courteous wave to the recruits. Captain Hadrian gestured for Kin to step aside, clearing the stage for the day's initial lesson. Kin, who had fixated on the prospect of sparring, forgot everything else on the schedule. I wanted to spar first, he pondered with a scowl. Ari suppressed a laugh, well aware of Kin's singular focus. His dedication, often bordering on obsession, was both his strength and his Achilles heel. Today we dive into the essence of mana, Captain Hadrian announced, his voice carrying the weight of experience. Agent Ari will exemplify the foundational technique of mana fortification, a skill vital for both defense and offense. Ari centered herself, casually channeling her mana with precision. As she infused her fist with the potent energy, her strike met the ground, not merely breaking it, but transforming the floor into a web of crystalline fractures that shimmered with residual power. The recruits watched, awestruck by the display of controlled force, a clear demonstration of mana's potential when wielded with skill. Captain Hadrian continued, his tone instructional yet infused with a hint of excitement. Next, we explore the creation of a mana shield. This technique is akin to fortification. Here you project a portion of your mana externally, forming a protective shield. Ari extended her arm, her focus unwavering as she summoned her mana. A shimmering blue aura coalesced around her forearm, solidifying into a translucent shield. The air seemed to thrum with energy as Captain Hadrian approached, spear in hand. He prodded the shield, the tip of his weapon meeting resistance against the seemingly delicate barrier. The shield held firm, a clear demonstration of its strength despite its ethereal appearance. It was a powerful display of how mana could be wielded not just for offense, but for defense as well. Ari moved the shield with her mind, demonstrating that it did not have to be attached to a person's body and could be moved freely. Lastly, we come to a pivotal ability that amplifies all the basics. It's known as mana burst. This technique involves concentrating a substantial amount of mana and releasing it instantaneously. A person's mana output is generally limited. This technique bypasses that limit for a short time. Despite the rigorous practice it demands and the toll it exacts on the user, Captain Hadrian said with a sense of finality. Ari positioned herself before the class, her expression unusually focused and imbued with intensity. She closed her eyes with fierce determination. In a mere heartbeat, her power erupted, a visible shock wave of energy that made the air tremble. The pre-existing fissures in the floor expanded with a resounding crack, a testament to the unleashed force. As the formidable display of power subsided, Ares swiftly reined in her mana, restoring equilibrium within herself, her black and blue hair falling calmly back to her shoulders. Captain Hadrian emphasized, "A mana burst is a fleeting surge, meant to be utilized only for the duration necessary to accomplish your objective. The more concise the burst, the more efficient and effective it is at conserving energy and minimizing strain on the wielder." The students gazed in silent reverence, the raw display of power resonating within them. Kin rose to his feet, a surge of excitement coursing through him. "Don't embarrass yourself," Ari teased, her unique form of encouragement ringing in Kin's ears. Kin approached the center of the room, rolling his eyes at Ari. As Kin approached the center of them room, Ari thought about how much she admired Kin. He actually made her feel a little insecure. Sure, they were both held as prodigies, but she has secretly had her powers. For 8 years, Kin has had his for 1 year. She outclassed him in every category but raw speed, and she somehow felt that he had something she did not, and that something made him special. She remembered sneaking out into the forest near the orphanage. She trained and trained. She wanted to be strong enough to uphold her vow to never use her axiom to transform herself ever again. As far as she knew, no one was aware that what she called her axiom was in fact a system of mana constructs used to make a bow and arrow. Then she used a small amount of her axiom to add lightning to the arrow. While weaker than her axiom would be, it was still plenty strong. Kin would probably hate her if he found out she had been lying to him. She sighed as Captain Hadrian's voice broke the silence. "You are strong, I've heard. Perhaps I won't need to restrain myself too much," Captain Hadrian remarked, as he used his axiom, seamlessly transforming his steel spear into a steel staff. "A clean strike or a takedown shall decide the winner." With a confident grin, Kin acknowledged the terms. The duelists signaled readiness, and without hesitation, Kin lunged forward, sword at the ready. He unleashed a powerful overhead strike, met by Hadrian's staff. The impact resonated, fracturing the ground beneath Hadrian's stance. Utilizing Kin's forward momentum, Hadrian pivoted, sending Kin tumbling to the floor. Retreating a step, Hadrian executed a trio of thrusts, each with blinding speed. Kin's reflexes saved him by a hair's breadth. Regaining his footing, Kin aimed a low slash. Hadrian, anticipating the move, vaulted over the blade. In a swift counter, he brought his staff down in a devastating arc. Kin evaded just in time, the staff's force generating a shock wave that carved a crater into the adjacent wall. The recruits sat in silent amazement, their eyes wide with wonder. Many struggled to comprehend the full scope of what was unfolding before them. Kin's focus intensified as he activated his axiom, tailored for close-quarters combat. With Hadrian's technique favoring distance, Kin knew proximity was his advantage. "Times 2, Kin whispered, his body surging forward with newfound velocity. Hadrian moved to parry the rapid onslaught, his staff a blur as it redirected Kin's blade. In a fluid motion, Kin pivoted, launching a calculated kick at an unexpected angle toward Hadrian's head. The defender's reflexes kicked in. He dropped his staff to one hand, elbow rising like a shield. As Kin's accelerated state faded, Hadrian seized the moment, his staff arcing toward Kin with lethal intent. Kin's instincts flared as he reinforced his defenses. Metal clashed with force, and though Kin's sword held, the impact sent him careening through the air. Kin's feet touched the ground, and he immediately sensed Hadrian's axiom technique. Raising his gaze, Kin was met with a swirling vortex of metallic shards, a veritable tornado of steel hurtling towards him. In response, Kin conjured a mana shield of unprecedented size, his hands outstretched, channeling mana with unwavering focus to repel the onslaught of projectiles. In a daring move, Kin activated his acceleration ability, amplifying his speed twofold. He darted through the barrage with such velocity that Hadrian's tracking faltered. Kin, now a blur to any onlooker, found himself at Hadrian's flank in an instant. Hadrian, with the foresight of a seasoned warrior, had already conjured a compact, focused mana shield upon his forearm. As Kin's blade struck with a surge of resolve, it met the sturdy barrier. Kin, channeling all his might against the shield, found himself in a deadlock. In that critical juncture, Hadrian executed a masterful feint. He dissipated the shield and pivoted, using Kin's own relentless force to propel him forward. Off balance and unsuspecting, Kin was left vulnerable. Hadrian seized the moment, his staff connecting with a resounding impact against Kin's back, catapulting him through the air before he crashed against the wall with a thunderous echo. Kin's eyelids fluttered open, revealing Ari looming above with a mix of concern and amusement. "Are you all right? That was quite the home run." Ari jested. A chuckle escaped Kin as he playfully scolded Ari for the cheeky remark, his eyes rolling in feigned annoyance. "You fight him," Kin said, smiling. "I would lose too," Ari said, laughing. Despite the sting of defeat, Kin harbored no bitterness. The duel had been exhilarating. He acknowledged with a hint of admiration that he had been sent soaring across the chamber not once but twice, while Captain Hadrian had remained in almost the same spot the entire duel. Captain Hadrian extended a hand to Kin, lifting him from the ground with a firm grip. "Your strength is formidable, Kin, and there are moments when your speed eclipses even mine," he acknowledged, his voice carrying the weight of experience. "The entirety of our duel, you never once feigned. Each strike was a direct attempt to inflict damage. Such straightforwardness, though powerful, renders you predictable," Hadrian advised, his eyes locking with Kin's in earnest. "And one more thing," he continued. "Consider diversifying the use of your power. Some diversity could prove invaluable in certain situations." Kin offered a nod of understanding, absorbing the wisdom imparted. Kin's eyes lit up with the realization. "Last but not least, you and Air are strong for rookies, but being stronger than all your opponent has made you complacent. The strongest doesn't always win. Stop trying to only rely on brute force to solve a problem," Hadrian added. "That was a fierce battle. You've certainly turned the place upside down," Captain Cade remarked as he approached them. Kin quipped, "It was mostly Captain Hadrian." Cade chuckled and clasped Hadrian's hand in a firm shake, their camaraderie evident to Kin. "Apologies for interrupting your session, but I require the assistance of these two," Cade said, his tone conveying the urgency of the situation. By now the room had started repairing itself. The facility, nicknamed the Citadel, was a formidable stronghold, was strategically erected upon an AXIOM deposit. Harnessing the mana of this invisible grid, it boasted a remarkable self-repair mechanism, subtly mending its own battle scars over time. Cade Kin took their seats as they entered the briefing room. Ari grabbed a chair and sat sideways, legs resting on the armrest, the air thick with anticipation for the director's arrival. Lost in thought, Kin recalled Captain Hadrian's earlier words and turned to Captain Cade with a question. "How did your axiom manifest?" He leaned back in his chair, a contemplative look crossing his face. "Initially, my ability was quite rudimentary, merely summoning chains. But as I fused imagination with experience and dedicated practice, my powers began to have other applications. I mastered the art of altering the chain's size, then their durability, and finally I unlocked the potential to superheat them. Axioms, you see, are complex. They evolve and adapt, often beyond our initial understanding. However, they do not stray far from the base ability. I won't be summoning meteors anytime soon. However, Axiom do grow with the user. I agree with Hadrian, it's time you guys worked on expanding your awakening's potential. Things have gotten quite dangerous as of late." Ari wondered what those implications meant for her, since she doesn't even use her axiom. "That is partly the reason I have called this meeting today," Director Hanzaki said gruffly, stepping into the room and taking a seat in the head chair, and began speaking, sparing a second to notice how Ari was sitting. "I understand it was my call to delay your rendezvous with Hector and Grant. I did not foresee any of this." He gave a slight bow. "You have my condolences regarding their deaths. I know that Hector had adopted you when you were young Kin. I'm sorry for your loss. A funeral for them is being held today." Kin, realizing his fist had been clenched, tried to relax himself. He knew it was not the director's fault, but he had essentially lost two sets of parents now. He couldn't help how he felt. He thought as he tried to harbor no ill will towards the director. Hanzaki continued. In the aftermath of the incident, our team scoured the area for clues, only to find the video recordings had been meticulously wiped clean. The envelope you managed to retrieve now stands as our solitary clue. The thumb drive it contains is shrouded in layers of encryption, and we're hopeful that in a matter of days we will break the encryption. It seems the attack was a calculated move to obstruct our access to vital information. He paused, his expression turning grave. Moreover, the surge in missing people is alarming. Their disappearances are not only more frequent, but they are also noticeably more puzzling, Director Hanzaki said. The team nodded in agreement. He went on to explain, I will be adding an operator specific to your team and relay communications to other teams. You guys will now be talking over the investigation that Hector and Grant had started in investigating the missing person. This is a need-to-know investigation, thus the need to have your own operator. Tomorrow, coordinate police detectives. They will be under your control for this mission, Cade? Any questions? Hanzaki asked. No, sir, the team said in unison. Caption Cade now standing, let's go find our new operator. She will be in the training room, Director Hanzaki added. The trio made their way to the training room where they found Yika buried in a pile of folders. Hello, Yika. I hear you're going to be our new operator, Cade said, extending his hand for a handshake. As she reciprocated, her hand brushed against a stack of papers, sending them fluttering to the floor. Ari's eyes widened with curiosity. What's all this paperwork about? Yika gathered the scattered sheets, her expression earnest. These are your mission files along with detailed information about each of you. I've been studying your missions, abilities, and habits to ensure I can offer the best support possible. Ari leaned in, her excitement palpable. Oh, tell me about me, she exclaimed. Cade raised a hand, a serious look on his face. Hold on, Ari. I'm first, he insisted. Ari's excitement turned to a pout, her shoulders slumping in mock disappointment. Kin chimed in from the corner. Please don't encourage them, he said. That's Kin, Ari announced, revealing his presence. He had remained concealed in the corner. I guessed his file did mention he's somewhat reclusive and antisocial, Yika remarked. Ari quipped, no fair. He was briefed about himself without even asking. I personally wanted to hear her tell me how awesome I am, a playful tone in her voice. Cade replied, me too. Kin cracked a smile. Cade instructed them to assist her in settling into her new command center before going talk to Captain Hadrian Kin, and Ari dutifully transported Yika's belongings to the 6 squad's training and operations zone. Ari climbed on a shelf. ADN started cleaning her gun and checking her mission load. Yika observed Ari curiously and reminded of her files. So she really doesn't know how to sit like a normal person. What a strange quirk. Yika looked at Ari's weapons, a modified submachine gun, its bullets charged with her mana, alongside a sword tailored for single-handed use. Her approach to battle was defensive. Her movements were in general less aggressive than Kin's. He wielded a two-handed katana and was almost always attacking. Their difference did complement each other well. Ari often gave Kin support, and he dived headfirst into things. She also noted to herself Ari's files stated that she had not killed a single person while on duty, while Kin's files stated that he had killed several. Considering the life-threatening situations they have been in, it was strange. Yika wondered if she had an issue with violence. Despite being referred to as violent and overly aggressive, Kin had always shown excellent judgment and skill, to the point that he cut a car in half without killing the occupants. If Ari really was holding back, she could put the whole team and mission at risk. Yika snapping back to reality. Oh, BTW Ari, these are for you, Yika said, handing Ari a box. Ari opened the box. What are these, she asked. Explosives, Yika said. Ari grinned. Explosives, how do they work, she asked. Yika began explaining. You stab the pointy end into something absolutely not a person, they said. Then you will get a feedback of mana sent to you at that time. You have a few seconds to send that exact amount of mana back to the device to arm it. The device will then explode in 3 seconds. They said make sure you knew these were not to be used on people, they are for demolition, she said. Ari laughed. Yep, got it, no people. Yika considered her prior thoughts about Ari. She figured they would probably be safe in her hands. Kin interjected, "Where is mine?" Yika said, "Remember last month when you took the mana acclimation test? Well, it was a test to see who was compatible with this. You failed it apparently. You kept failing to send the correct amount back to the computer and got bored, then decided to see if you could fry the computer by sending all your mana to it at once. And you broke the sensors and was kicked out the lab." Ari laughed hysterically, almost falling off the shelf. After a few minutes, Cade returned. "Everybody get ready for the funeral. It's in an hour," he said as the room grew tense. "I'm not going to the funeral," Kin said, his mana unconsciously leaking a little and filling the air with intensity. "Kin," Cade said with a look of concern. He could feel Kin's anger in his mana. "Hector wouldn't want you to be so full of rage," Cade said. Kin clenched his fist. "Hector is not here anymore, so it does not matter what he thinks," Kin said angrily. "I'm going to the city. Some fresh air will be better for me," Kin said as he threw a jacket on. Cade, not wanting to argue, just agreed, knowing that anything else he said would just make the situation worse. He knew he could just make Kin go to the funeral, but he really did not want to strain their relationship. Things were getting tough enough around here. He needed to make sure Kin's head was in the right place. "I'll go with him," Ari said, breaking the tension and grabbing her weapons, then placing it in her backpack. Cade approved and gave Ari a silent nod of appreciation. He really did not want Kin to be alone. Yika let out a sigh. "That was intense. It was like I couldn't breathe." "Will Kin be okay?" she said. Cade consoled Yika. "He is very dependable and strong. He just needs time."